Hello friends, welcome to lesson number 47, Environmental Sustainability of Smart Cities, Contemporary Relevance of the Garden City Movement, Part B. Introduction. The Garden City Movement is a method of urban planning in which the self-contained communities are surrounded by green belts containing the proportionate areas of residences, industry and agriculture. As we have discussed, the idea was initiated in 1898 by Sir Ebenezer Howard in United Kingdom and aims to capture the primary benefit of a countryside environment and a city environment while avoiding the disadvantages presented by both. It is inspired by the utopian novel Looking Backward and Henry George's work Progress and Poverty. Howard published the book Tomorrow, A Peaceful Path to Real Reform in the year 1898, which was reissued in 1902 as A Garden Cities of Tomorrow. His idealized garden city would house 32,000 people on a site of 6,000 acres planned on a concentric pattern with open spaces, public parks and 6 radial boulevards or roads comprising of 120 feet or 37 meter wide extending from the center. The garden city would be self-sufficient, and when it reached full population, another garden city would be developed nearby. These points we have also discussed in our previous lesson. Howard envisaged a cluster of several garden cities as satellites of a central city of 58,000 people linked by road and rail. Howard's garden city concept played a very important role in urban planning in the first half of 20th century, beginning with the construction of the first garden cities of Letchworth and Welwyn, as well as the later so-called new cities in England. The concept which was applied during the reconstruction of the cities after the two world wars had its earliest supporters throughout the Europe, including the Balkan countries as well as in Russia and the United States. Over time, the originally Howard's idea was redefined by planners Raymond Unwin and Barry Parker and implemented in the construction of the garden suburbs, satellite cities and new cities that could have the function of the developmental poles. Friends, now let us try to understand what kind of cues can be taken for contemporary cities. It has been argued that the concept of garden cities is utopian in nature and is not appropriate in the present context. Due to its evolution over the course of 20th century, the garden cities model has often been partially interpreted or reduced to its morphological drifts even by planning professionals. It is indeed not possible to exactly implement the Howard's model, which would obviously be inappropriate in a radically different historical, demographic and also cultural context. But it is indeed worth analyzing its characteristics and its evolution in contemporary as well as the future context. That is what Hall and Watt call the wisdom of the past. Considering that method as valuable to seek innovation as exploring academic research or analyzing good contemporary working examples. As Sita Dean and others opine that certainly Ebenezer Howard's concept of garden city is one of the most influential planning models produced by 20th century urbanists. It remains so today, revitalized by Peter Hall's updating of the concept in his 1998 book Sociable Cities, the 21st century reinvention of the garden city, re-released in 2014 with co-author Colin Watt. There are several principles of the garden city model which is quite relevant in present times as well. Now let us discuss these one after the other. First comes our green belts. Garden cities were intended to be planned, self-contained communities surrounded by green belts containing proportionate areas of residences, industry and also agriculture. The garden city introduced the use of green belts that have served many uses, including the preservation of agricultural and rural life, nature and heritage conservation, along with recreation, pollution, minimization and growth management. Garden city tradition endowed urban planning with the social and community dimensions. The garden city idea showed how both industrial estates and collective retailing spaces could be used within a comprehensive planning approach to serve the public purposes. Green belts and the greenery indeed play an important role in curbing the adverse effects of urban life. Greenery keeps the city cooler in summer. Their roots help mitigate storm water and also their canopy supports microclimates for the urban wildlife. Green roof systems go one step further. In addition to these benefits, these layers of growing medium can drastically reduce urban heat in the summer while providing year-round insulating value to the buildings. Green belt in India refers to a buffer zone created beyond which industrial activity may not be carried on. This concept has developed through a long line of cases, and today green belts are present not only for the purpose of protecting sensitive areas to maintain ecological balance, but are also be found in urban areas so as to act as a sink for the harmful gases released from the vehicles and industries operating in the city area. The green belt lands are imperative to preserving local biodiversity and natural resources by offering space in the event of flooding to safeguard an already scarce water supply. Also, green belt lands can help to capture excess carbon dioxide with the large number of trees or forests. While housing crisis in large cities is an incessant and predominant problem, these urban areas should strive to establish better designed, located and affordable housing units that also pertain to the environmental needs. It is easy for housing organizations to assume that building on available green belt land is the easiest solution to housing crisis as it's immediate, but it is ultimately more harmful than beneficial, as building on designated green belt areas depletes other future resources that can aid in the fight against the climate change. Apart from the green belts, walkability is an important component. Howard's contribution to sustainable planning is found in the garden city's eminent walkability. Walking is a very significant mode of transportation in India, and all Indian people are also pedestrians. The most indispensable, accessible and affordable form of transportation in any country is undoubtedly walkability, which has a relationship with the health benefits by providing the active lifestyle, sustainable environment by decreasing the air pollution from less driving, and leads to efficiency in time and cost by residents of mixed use walkable communities spending less time commuting to the shopping, dining, recreation, entertainment and even work destinations when they have the option of walking wherever they need to go. Walking. It is used extensively irrespective of a person's social status. Even people who regularly drive vehicles need to walk for varying distances. In fact, the new urbanism advocates for more walkable cities with responsible mixed use development, a design concept in which developers build housing, shopping, essential services and work opportunities within proximity, sometimes on the same properties. Walkability is a measure of how friendly an area is to walking. Walkability has been defined in many ways and is the extent to which walking is readily available as a safe, connected, accessible and pleasant mode of transportation. A place is termed to be walkable when the built environment supports and encourages walking by providing for the pedestrian comfort and safety, connecting people with the varied destinations within a reasonable amount of time and effort, and offering visual interest in the journey throughout the network for that matter. Walkability will certainly characterize Sterling Grant's clustered mixed-use residential villages. It will also govern wider transportation planning as envisaged by Dean in his 2016 publication. The urban sprawl and increasing population density in urban centers create the challenge to finding ways of sustainable transportation solutions that preserve the convenience of residents while reducing the emissions. Therefore, walkability is a core urban design element because of being advantageous into three fronts, including health, livability and sustainability. Adopting walkability as urban solution relieves conceptual and practical tensions between the individualistic interests manifested in the desire to own and use private cars and the need to reduce the transportation based consumption as well. Rural-urban migration. As a result of rapid economic growth for past few decades, since the initiation of economic reforms in 1990, India has been experiencing the rapid urbanization flow from rural to urban migration. Migration in search of improved livelihoods is a key feature of human history. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, Howard's solution to the related problems of rural depopulation owing to rural to urban migration and the runaway growth of great towns and cities was the creation of a series of small planned cities that would combine the amenities of urban life with the ready access to nature typical of the rural environments. After these dimensions, let us now discuss about development of suburbs. The garden cities model, while primarily advocating the development of a network of interconnected cities, has also served as an inspiration for the creation of a great number of suburbs throughout the world. Suburbs are generally spread out over the greater distances than other types of living environments. For instance, people may live in the suburb to avoid the population density and the untidiness of the city. Since people must get around these vast stretches of land, automobiles are common sights in the suburbs. Transportation, including to a limited extent trains and buses plays an important role in the life of a suburban resident who generally commutes to work. Suburbs are not a modern concept, as this 539 BCE clay tablet letter from an early suburbanite to the king of Persia makes clear. Our property seems to me the most beautiful in the world. It is so close to Babylon that we enjoy all the advantages of the city, and yet when we come home we stay away from all the noise and dust. Other early examples of suburbs include areas created for lower class citizens outside of Rome, Italy during 1920s, streetcar suburbs in Montreal, Canada created during the late 1800s, and the picturesque Levelland Park, New Jersey created in 1853. Indian city suburbs are being urbanized to provide everything that the city offers, including employment in glass and chrome buildings, efficient public transport, cheaper rates of residential property, and improved social infrastructure. Suburbanization is the process by which, holding the metropolitan population constant, there is an increase in the proportion of population living in the suburbs, defines Professor Kala Sridhar from Center for Research in Urban Affairs, Institute of Social and Economic Change, ISEC, Bengaluru. The growth of cities happened on the back of the rural migration in search of better employment. These cities then evolved into metropolitan areas when their population increased to more than 10 lakhs. Global economists and urban planners peg the reason for further migration of the metropolitan population to the outskirts of the city or the suburbs to economic and infrastructure development in these areas. While the improved infrastructure was a major factor driving urban dwellers from the city centers to move to live in suburbs of a city, economic experts like Professor Arup Mitra from Institute of Economic Growth pointed out the forced diversification in rural areas as one of the important cause of the suburbanization of India, with farmers and rural unemployed looking for better alternatives of employment and facilities in cities suburbs located nearer to them. Management of territorial resources. Howard strongly aspired to reconcile the urban space with the rural space. This aspiration is clearly symbolized by Howard's diagram featuring the three magnets. The well-balanced management of the territorial resources generated by the garden city through the synergy between the urban and rural is one of the key points behind the original theory. This synergy is extremely relevant in today's time as well. The practicality of the model thus lies in the exchanges between these potential resources and the opportunity for local population. The efficient management of the territorial resources helps in enhancing health and the quality of social life. Let us now discuss about rurbanization. Rurbanization is a process of rural transformation. It is a prominent development process commonly witnessed in developing countries. Predominantly rural agricultural economy, forms of settlements, lifestyles and social attitudes are changing. Howard identified that the economic and social factors respond to different needs of the future inhabitants of the garden city. There is a very high possibility of urbanization of the rural space, in other words, the development of rurbanization. It should be considered as an opportunity to develop new, innovative and sustainable solutions for contemporary and future rural and urban challenges. There is a serious need to incorporate and secure a natural and productive space which is integrated and utilizes appropriately the territorial space. In fact, Nicholas Vernet and Anne Cost opine for the 21st century the garden cities model could also become more productive in terms of renewable energies, thus contributing to the self-sustainability of cities and their surrounding territories. This is also mentioned in a publication by Vernet and Cost dated 2017. India is likely to become 43.2% urban, which is approximately 675 million people by 2035 as per United Nations Habitat's World Cities Report 2022. This urbanization will be driven by growth in Indian population as well as migration from villages to cities. The report said that cities are here to stay and the future of humanity is undoubtedly urban. The belief and confidence towards India's urbanization arise from the spiked emergence of new age technology led models in rural India in the last decade, triggered by more than anticipated willingness of the rural India to embrace technology for higher incomes and also business transformation. Urbanization is an emerging and potentially most important transformative process observed in few pockets of the large size third world developing countries. It is fundamentally a process of change and transformation of rural areas by introduction of certain urban characteristics. It brings about differential growth patterns. However, it is not based on the domination paradigm, that is domination of man over nature or state over citizens, and is fundamentally not an exploitative process. It is more of a regenerative, restorative and revitalizing process. Its emphasis is on healing the wounds suffered during the colonial rule. It positively affects people and environment. Its emphasis is on the judicial consumption of resources. It combines the traditional knowledge and practices with the modern technology also. It is distributive and a participatory process which brings about the changes in the lifestyles of the participants. Modern technologies such as telecommunication and information technology can further and strengthen this particular process of urbanization. It has the potential of combining local actions with a global vision. Future-oriented urbanization can make the world a better place to live for that matter. Another important cue is focus on town planning. Town planning is physical, social and economic planning of an urban environment. It encompasses many different disciplines and brings them all under a single umbrella. In fact, this we have also discussed in our earlier lessons of our particular course. The simplest definition of town planning is that it is the organization of all elements of a town or urban environment. The ideals of town planning are beauty, convenience and health. While planning for beautification of a town, planner must achieve by taking the most possible advantages of the natural conditions surrounding the town and by giving the architectural firmness to various components of town. The object of convenience is to consider the economic, social and recreational amenities to be provided for the people to lead a better quality of life. While considering for healthy environment, planner has to look into the proper use of land use by providing parks, playgrounds and avoiding all the polluting factors. These three objects of town planning should be implemented by maintaining a kind of balance between them. In the present days of rapid urbanization coupled with globalization, the planning of an urban center must attract the highest attention. While today's urban context is not directly comparable to that of the industrial revolution of the 19th century in Great Britain, but in contemporary times, similar challenges are being faced, whereby the land is scarce, prices are rising dramatically and drastically, social inequalities are widening and the urban sprawl over has also been increasing. The reflections of town planners are then seen as ways of improving social organization through spatial organization. In planning, the architectural diversity, for example, not only avoids the monotony of repeated urban forms and aesthetics, but also ensures social diversity. The garden city recommends the proximity between homes, services and significant number of local jobs and the functional mix. The model avoids the congested traffic flows. The same can also be incorporated in town planning. The concept of green belt keeps the residential space within a walkable distance from the activities located in the city center. In addition, the municipal parks, individual and collective gardens provide residents a direct access to leisure, public spaces and socializing areas that are beneficial to their physical and also mental health. Let us now talk about energy ecosystem. According to Howard's theoretical model, the consumption and production should be balanced within the garden city. The local production of energy is therefore one of the requirements to achieve a reinterpretation of a new garden cities model ready to tackle the housing crisis in the energy transition context. Creating garden cities can provide the opportunity and the economies of scale to truly fulfill the ambitions of sustainable development by delivering multiple benefits including social housing, zero carbon design, that is no carbon emissions are being produced from a product or service. For example, zero carbon electricity could be provided by 100% renewable energy supplier, sustainable transport and local food sourcing. All these facilitate in maintaining energy ecosystem. New communities also offer a powerful opportunity to introduce governance structures that put people at the heart of new communities and hand over the ownership of community assets. In urban areas, for a better management of energy ecosystem, there is a need to replace the conventional fossil fuels leading to pollution and climate change with the solar energy. Ultimately, the objective is to shift to new territorialized energy ecosystem model. Fewer emissions and cleaner air are not the only reasons that cities should prefer renewable sources of energy. An increased use of solar energy is a key ingredient for forging resilient cities of today as well as future. This recognizes the importance of the urban fabric being able to use renewable energy sources to become increasingly self-sustainable. In this regard, the integration of active solar energy systems in the built environment will allow cities to reach a high level of sustainability. Using local solar projects to achieve broader community benefits and align with other priorities. These include saving money, creating local jobs, expanding renewable access to low income residents, and advancing the local resilience to a great extent. The implementation of renewable energies in urban environments in the present context is sometimes constrained by the mismatch between the supply and demand and their integration within the energy system. Smart grids could provide the necessary interconnections and control to manage the power provision effectively. The implementation of such measures in the contemporary urban environment provides several benefits, including improved energy security and reliability, reduced transmission costs through bringing local energy supply closer to the demand, employment of existing infrastructure, and also minimizing the demand for land. In the future, the development of the on-site renewable energy production could lead to zero emission buildings and highly energy efficient low carbon eco-cities as well. The new innovative technologies are advancing every day, making cities more energetically sustainable. For example, a wind, solar and rainwater harvester is being developed for application in urban high-rise buildings to optimize the energy production. It helps to minimize the issues with the current urban wind turbine applications also. Saiter Dean and others have elaborated on Sterling Ranch, which is a planned mixed use live, work, play development located about 30 miles southwest of the downtown Denver, Colorado. Sterling Ranch is not explicitly based on a garden city model. However, it certainly conforms to the model to a great extent. Although planned for just over half the acreage of Howard's Garden City, that is of 3,400 acres compared to 6,000 acres, Sterling Ranch is nearly identical to Garden City in terms of the resident population it is intended to serve, that is 31,000 people. A dense amenity rich town center and civic gathering place will transact outward in the concentric patterns as per the Howard's model into a clustered tightly knit villages ending in rural hillside ranchets. Sterling Ranch will offer 30 miles of hiking, biking and horseback riding trails, community sports facilities, small pocket parks in residential areas and access 3 regional parks and 2 state parks. These amenities will offer the areas of tranquility that Peter Hall, that is English town planner, urbanist and geographer, counts as one of the 12 key strategic policy elements for building his model city of the sociable city. Friends, now let us conclude this lesson. There is need to understand the various facets of garden city and adopt in contemporary urban planning in Indian context as well as in the global context. It can be argued and it is largely relevant that how can the concept be adopted in Indian cities with such high population density. There is of course lot of scope to modify the concept to maintain the equilibrium of environment, sustainability and development in contemporary scenario. At least the major takeaway from garden city can be environment sensitive development. Urban planners face challenges to make city life relatively pollution free and provide green and safe public spaces as envisaged in the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs 2030. Thank you.